Yo guys, HyperRocket here, and welcome to my first mouse review. For those of you who don't know, I decided that it might be a good idea to start doing mouse reviews because I know a fair bit about mouse specs. Gaming mice have always interested me, and more specifically, it's always been a mini goal of mine to find the best budget gaming mouse. That being said, there is no such thing as a perfect mouse, and mice in the budget category certainly make things interesting. What I'll try to do, assuming that I continue this series, is categorize the mice I review into which ones are definitely good, and that I can recommend to a lot of people who play Minecraft. And also I will try to make a list of top recommendations and specify which mice will suit which players in the future. Going now into the specifics of gaming mice, we tend to look at some of the important points, which include shape, sensor, buttons, and glide, which include the mouse feet and weight. These are the primary focuses of gaming mice, and it is important to find a nice balance between all of them. But some points may be more important than others, given certain playstyles and game types. For example, in FPS games, the sensor and shape are more important than buttons, but in MOBA games, the buttons are much more important than anything else. Since Minecraft falls into a weird category of competitive game, it's difficult to see which parts are most important. Speaking for my own playstyle, I definitely say that I care almost equally about all of these things, but if I had to choose an order of my priorities, I would say sensor, buttons, shape, and then the weight. This changes from person to person as playstyles and approaches to the game are different for everyone. For example, a player like Brandy probably places more emphasis on buttons than I do since he jitter clicks and I don't. A high sensitivity player also probably doesn't care too much about the sensor as much as a low sensitivity player would. All that out of the way for context, let's begin. Looking at the materials and the shape, the mouse has an entirely plastic construction with soft rubber on the scroll wheel. The top is hard plastic that does not attract fingerprints and feels satisfactory. The sides are a textured plastic that provides sufficient grip but feels lower end. At the price point, not a big deal, gets the job done. The sides are overall flat, which is simple, yet amazing. Flat sides are usually the best for gaming mice as they don't dictate where you put your fingers. We usually like having room on the side so we can lay our fingers wherever we find comfortable. So, we say that this mouse has an overall safe shape. Nothing juts out anywhere and the curves are pretty soft. We see a moderate thumb groove on the left side of the mouse with two side buttons and a moderate ledge which helps with picking up the mouse. On the right, we don't see a ledge to assist with lifting the mouse, however, we have the textured plastic panel right here, which provides sufficient grip. There are comfort grooves in the buttons, and the button slope is quite steep. While at first glances the mouse seems to resemble a Razer Mamba Tournament Edition, it actually is quite different. The button slope will discourage certain grip styles and encourage others. Fingertip grip users will struggle a bit, but palm grip users will most likely find the shape comfortable. As a claw grip user, I find that the shape is okay for me. Regarding dimensions, the base width is about 5.25 centimeters and the grip width is around 5.5. The base length is about 11.5 and the length between the feet is about 11. The height is hard to measure, but it's about 4 centimeters tall. For the size recommendation, it's important to know your hand size. Measure your hand from base to tip of the middle finger and then across from the knuckle of your pinky to the knuckle of your thumb. My hands are around 17.5 centimeters by 9.5 and I classify this in the small to medium hand range. If you use palm grip, I think this mouse can work for hands above 16 centimeters. For claw, I'd say 18 centimeters and up. And for fingertip, I'd say 19 to 20 centimeters and up. These measurements are not exact, they are simply my guesses on what the dimensions will allow. So this is overall a medium to large mouse. The weight of this mouse seems to be on the heavier side. I don't have a scale, but comparing it to the Death Adder, which is around 98 grams, I can definitely feel a difference. I'd say this is well over 100 grams, which is something to keep in mind. Fortunately, the mouse feet are very smooth and allow nice glide, so the weight should not be a huge issue. Concerning shape and weight, this mouse seems good. Moving on to the buttons and switches, there are 9 of them that Havit claims to be programmable and their software available online, including the scroll wheel up and down. Unfortunately, I had a lot of difficulty downloading the software, so I suggest against using the mouse width software. It works fine without it. There are 5 DPI settings at the default. 500 is indicated by red, 1000 DPI is indicated by green, 2000 indicated by blue, 3500 DPI is indicated by yellow, and 5000 DPI is indicated by purple. The colors can be customized using the LED button located underneath the DPI adjustment button. So you have off. This is a breathing of all the colors. This is a cycling of all the colors. And then this is kind of a wave through all the colors. Here's a listen to the clicks. Havit doesn't specify the switches that activate the buttons, but the left and right click feel similar, which implies some consistency in the switch used. They feel right and work as intended. I was able to achieve my normal CPS with these buttons, and they work fine for jittering as well. Maybe just not as satisfying or easy to press as, say, an Omron switch on other mice. When testing for delay, I do this by doing a human benchmark test, reaction test online with this mouse, and another one for control, and compare the numbers. For my tests, I couldn't detect any delay on the buttons. Side buttons feel tactile and have low travel distance and are a bit tight but work as intended. The TPI and lighting switches are in line with the rest of the surface of the mouse, and I haven't had any accidental clicks. I think they're well placed and feel fine as well. Middle click is harder to actuate, which is typical for most mice, and the scroll steps are smooth, with distinct steps and consistent scrolling all around. Although the steps are well defined, some players might like a little bit more attention for switching between weapons. I think it works great, and it's quite enough for scrolling through web pages as well. There is an occasional rattle on the scroll wheel when scrolling upwards, but this is typical for most mice, and it's not the same when going down. I'd say actually that there is less rattle in this one compared to the other mice I've used, like the Death Adder. So yeah, switches overall, pretty good. Now onto the sensor. Havit claims on their page that they're using a PMW 3325 optical sensor in their F300, which they also claim is an upgraded variant of the A3320 sensor, which is a common sensor in respectable lower-end gaming mice. I first tested for jitter, skipping, and angle snapping. Upon inspection, I couldn't find any skipping, but the sensor might be occasionally jittery compared to higher-end sensors with very little angle snapping to make up for it. I then tried tapping the mouse, and unfortunately it appears as though the sensor tracks upward very slowly but consistently. I then tried to see if I can make the sensor spin out, and I cannot. Well done. Now using the tilt slam test. This is a test where I throw the mouse at a fast speed starting at an angle. Most sensors spin out because of this, and the only ones that don't are PMW 3360s and the 3989s. As you can see, although I didn't technically spin out, I think this one gets confused sometimes. My flicks aren't always being tracked, and they sometimes stop midway through the flick, as you can see here. Now testing for acceleration. I don't have a great way of testing for it. I usually set a starting point and throw the mouse quickly and track back slowly to make sure I land in the right place. I've already kind of tested this before, but this is just a test so you guys can see. As long as it's in the ballpark of like where I started, I usually say we're pretty good. So after doing this, and a few other tests, the sensor seems to have little to no acceleration that I can detect. Now zooming into FOV30. Just moving the mouse very slowly. See if I can notice anything. Pixel by pixel. This seems to be picking up all my movements pretty well. Maybe the slight jitter and the little bit of angle snapping at times. But yeah, very impressed. Sensor's quite good. Now onto and shaking the mouse. I hear no rattle whatsoever, and when tapping it, I hear no extra rattle in there. Surprisingly, the sound when tapping it seems very solid, almost too solid. There might be some extra weight inside of the mouse, which makes it heavier. This isn't great for me since I prefer lighter mice, but it might suit those who prefer heavier ones. Speaking of weight, the center of mass seems to be in the back of the mouse, which is not in line with the sensor. We usually like mice with the center of mass in line with the sensor or in the middle of the mouse, and this just seems to be ever so slightly towards the back. Not a deal breaker, but it would have been nice to see maybe like a more balanced weight. Going back to the LED lights, very nice touch. Lighting seems to be surprisingly ubiquitous throughout the body at such a low price point. Concerning the cable, it's 1.8 meters long, and it has a smooth braid, but it is quite stiff with lots of kinks throughout. You can see with these. And when I push the mouse using the cable, you can see that it moves quite easily. This has been a small issue for me in game as it can get snagged onto things easily, and it can also force some unnecessary movements if I hit my keyboard or something with the cable. But despite the cable and the cheaper materials, like the textured plastic sides, I'd say pretty nice build quality. Conclusion time. Honestly, I really like this mouse. I haven't tried a mouse at this price range that performs so well, and this one blows the competition out of the water thus far when compared to other cheap mice that I've tried, like the Red Dragon M601 Centrophorus, Asia's GM2400, and Havit's own 2800 DPI Avago 5050, which are all at the same price point. I've covered some of the flaws in the sensor I stated before, and the buttons could be slightly better, but these are very minor gripes. I was able to aim this mouse quite well. I might not have been able to play entirely up to my potential, but that is simply because of my preference in shape and grip style. This mouse is too large for my hand and does not suit me perfectly, but that's just me. It could be different for you. If you use fingertip or claw grip styles and have larger hands, or if you have smaller hands and use palm grip, this mouse is great. If you have a preference in better buttons and don't care as much about the shape and or sensor quality, I suggest against buying this mouse for now, and I'll try to update you guys with other better options for you later. That concludes my review of the Havit Hiraliy F300 gaming mouse. I don't have other mice to compare it to as of now, but I will be able to do more mouse reviews if you guys want to see them. In which case I can make like a top 5 or a top 10 budget gaming mice list. Again, I'm doing this partially to help you guys, so if any of you want some recommendations on what to get, feel free to comment down below what you're looking for. Tell me your hand size and grip style, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Again, really great mouse, and I am really impressed. I hope to see you all in the next video. Peace.